I'm Matt.
Hey, I'm Steve.
Hey, I'm John.
This is the Sober Friends Podcast. We're here for the sober curious, the new guy, and the old timer. We're here to talk about the stuff anyone looking to live alcohol-free has to face day to day, and how we overcame those struggles. We speak for no 12-step group, but we do try to remain anonymous. You're not alone. This is the Sober Friends Podcast. Steve, my friend Darren reached out to me yesterday, and he sent me a text. He knows I don't drink. We talk about sobriety all the time. And he said, if I think a friend has a drinking problem, what should I do? And I'm like, oh, this is a good one. This is a good one.
Great question.
He's not in the program, so I can't give him the whole what we would do 12-step-wise for this person. But I thought this would be a great one for the audience, because I think everybody has encountered this. You get some sobriety, however you do it, and you notice those people who may have a drinking problem. And how do you approach it? Because you don't want to piss the person off. You have good intentions, but what if it goes sideways? And then if you're in a 12-step program, we've got a whole process for that, right? Or at least a guideline. So you get that text. What are you telling somebody?
Well, I guess it all depends on my relationship with that person. There's so many variables involved with it, right? You have to somewhat, if somebody asked me that text, then it's easy. You can have a conversation with that person. You're really not, you don't think you're talking to a person who needs help, although, who knows. So it all depends on a few things. Does this person understand that they might need help? A lot of things like that. So, but anyway,
that's where I started.
Right. Like, does the person think they need help? Like, so you have to get some background, right? And I'll tell anybody listening to this, even if you're not a 12-stepper, if you're not a big book person, this is where the big book has some really good information that you could get the big book, you could read through the big book, and you can get some ideas how you can help another alcoholic without buying the whole package, right? Like, you don't need to buy the whole thing. So there are, we have a process that we would follow, and you can take some ideas from that process. So if you're out there and you're thinking about it, if you're just sober curious, you don't have a problem. If you don't have the AA Big Book, I suggest you get one and just keep it as a reference guide, if nothing else, because there are steps, and the first step is, does this person realize that they have a drinking problem? Does this person accept? Has this person complained that, oh my God, I can't believe I'm doing that? To do some investigation on this before you do anything else.
Steve, that is a great point. And if we look at the why Bill wrote the Big Book, it was to get people sober. But he didn't write it just to give to the person sick and suffering.
No.
He wrote it to help people get sober. And that included doctors, family members, people who run businesses, the HR president. He wrote it to give people an idea of how to help an alcoholic. Right. There's a lot of reading around that, and I don't think we talk about that enough.
No, when you mentioned this topic, I said it's a really good topic because of that, right? That whole book was written. I mean, obviously it was directed. The program is directed towards the sick and suffering alcoholic.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you're absolutely right. That whole book is really targeted to a wide range of people. And anybody out there who may have addiction in the family, some alcoholism, whatever, it is really a good reference book to have. And it could really help you understand some of the stuff that goes on. It can help you understand the mind of an alcoholic. It can help you understand some of the things and realize, like, oh, crap, this isn't just this person. This isn't my husband or my boyfriend or my brother or whoever it might be. He's acting or she's acting like lots of alcoholics act. And then you get an idea, there's a real problem here, right? And this is a problem not unique to that individual.
Yeah, to paraphrase the old commercial, because the alcoholic mind is a terrible thing.
Yeah, right. So yeah, that's the first thing I would say. Like, do some investigation. Does this person, and And if the answer is I don't know, then that's where you start. You start by talking. You start by, I don't know. If you're not in the program, then you got to sort of, do what you can. But start, depends on how close you are to this person. Have you been around where they've gotten out of hand that you could point out a couple different things, and you sort of have to lead that person to the understanding, to themselves understanding that maybe they have a problem, right? That's the first place to ask. You have to lead them to a place where they can come to the conclusion that maybe they have a problem.
Right. The big book is a piece of quitlet. I think everybody who is involved in recovery, either on the outside or the inside, it makes sense to buy. You do not have to buy you don't have to be part of a 12-step group to buy the book Alcoholics Anonymous. It's an old book, but there's a lot of good tips in there, even if it is outside of recovery. And the steps are the basis for Al-Anon. So the program of Al-Anon is an offshoot of the big book. So I asked the follow-up, how have you addressed this? He's like, we've addressed this a bunch of times. Okay, so I don't think that you think he has a problem. If this keeps being addressed, it sounds like there's a problem.
Right.
This isn't your first pass.
Right. Yeah, so if you get that feedback, then you can help. Then there's some different things. And I truly think that then the next question is, do you want to stop? Right? That's the only question. That's the question we all. Do you want to stop? And if they say no, or if they say, or if they, they want to moderate, then again, that's not us, right? That's not our program. If somebody tells me that they don't want to stop and they want to moderate, then my answer is okay. Well, let me know how that works out, and then if you need more help, you know how to get in touch with me, right? But in your friend's case, that may not be how you want to handle it. Or you may want to come up with a program of moderation. You may want to say, okay, let's try this program. Let's see how we do. You may want to help this person get to a place where they undeniably believe and understand that they have a problem that they need help with, right? We talk about it all the time here, Matt. I talk about it every time I go to a meeting. I go to meetings and I do this podcast because for this alcoholic, I can't stay sober on my own.
Me neither.
I cannot stay sober on my own. Therefore, I need a community. I need a program. I need to go to meetings to remind me of that. So I need that kind of help. And so that's what you got to figure out. This person like this, what kind of help, if this person chooses to get some help, what kind of help do they want? So it's a really tough question. I'm sure this question has been asked in people's minds, at least by millions of people. Think about it. Like, what do I do? What do I do in this situation? I told the story before, Matt. I'll tell it very quickly here, but when I was in my early 20s, maybe 22, 23, I grew up in an alcoholic family. My mom was an alcoholic. And I got sort of tasked with the responsibility to try to figure out a way to help my mother at a young age. And I had older siblings and stuff, but it's just the way it worked out in my family. And I had no clue. Like, this was long before I had any idea that I had a problem. And I had no clue. I had no clue what to do. None. Zero. And I can remember driving around the streets of Waterbury trying to go into some different places, and I got some help. Somehow somebody directed me to some type of social worker, and I talked to them, and they gave me some pamphlets of rehabs and stuff like that. But I had no understanding of it. It was, and especially I was only 22 or 23, and it was my mom, right? I was put in a tough position. I was trying to figure this out. So it's not easy. I'll tell you, it's not easy. But in the case, and just to wrap that up, in the case, we did confront my mom, and it was me and my older sister, and we sat down and we talked to her, and I had those pamphlets, and it was what my mom needed, and my mom got sober. I don't think as far as I know, she never went to any AA meeting or anything. She had a lot of faith. So, But in that case, that's what she was needed. So, and that's the other thing, right? I mean, if this thing gets really, really bad, there may need to be an intervention.
Right.
You
If you're
know?
going to do an intervention, here's what you shouldn't do. You want to go to YouTube and look up Sopranos, Chrissy Moltisanti's his intervention, where the guy comes in and he's like, "Hi, I've been sober for this many years, and I help other people." And Paulie goes, "And you forgot scumbag." That would probably be not the way you want to go. I watch that every once in a while because it just makes me laugh my ass off about how to do it the wrong way. But that's the Sopranos way.
Right.
You don't want to go that way. So this is a really hard one because this is an out of your control experience. The circle of control here, that person who's sick and suffering is not in your circle of control. You can coax, you can ask.
Right.
But if they are not going to decide for themselves, you will not be successful, and you haven't done anything wrong. That's the other thing, too. If this is not successful, if you talk to somebody and you talk about the drinking problem and you do everything by the book right and they don't stop, you haven't done anything wrong.
Matt, that is so important. I had and I really do, I think it was an honor of helping a family with an intervention. They asked me for my help. They knew I was sober. They told me what was going on. And I met with this family a couple times. And I walked them through what I would do for an intervention. And I told them I was willing to be there. I knew the person who they were going to try to do this with. And I said, I could be there if you want me to, but I don't think that it's the right place for me to be there. And we worked out a scenario where it was this person's children who sort of did it. And the one thing I stress with them is like, really be prepared that this isn't going to work. Like the chances are this won't work because this was a chronic relapser. And I'm just like, so you have to put your all into it. And then you have to be able to walk away. And the nice thing about that is that if it doesn't work and it goes really bad and this person ends up dying from this disease, you could you could hold your head up that you tried.
Right.
That you tried. You put an effort in there and you tried and you did what you could. It turned out that it was successful. Great. And it was really good. And, the person went on to some really good sobriety for several years. So anyway, it was good.
Here's the unfortunate secret. Most people don't get sober who have a problem, no matter what you do. Even if they walk into a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, most people who walk in don't stay. It is really a small percentage. Mm-hmm. If you're somebody who got sober and has stayed sober for quite a while, you have hit the lottery. You've hit those lottery odds in many ways. Most people don't, and that's a sad fact. Yeah. And I certainly wish it wasn't the case.
No. It absolutely is a sad fact. And we see it. If you're on the front lines like we are, you see it. Like, our Monday night meeting that we both attend is like we've had new people come into that meeting the last, say, a year at least. We've had 4 or 5, and I mean newcomers, like they were sober for days or a week or something, come into that meeting and talk like, "Oh, I'm so happy to be here. I feel like this time is good. This time's going to work." And then we would never see them again. It's like you would never see. We'd give them a big book because that's one of the things we do if they don't have one, and you would never see them again. So it really is like it's the odds are against people getting sober.
Yes.
So it's good to know that. It's good to know that so you can have some peace of mind so that you can not feel like you're a failure if it doesn't work.
The other thing is they may not get sober the first time you have this conversation. Right. This is a process. Mm-hmm. Relapse can be part of the story of a lot of people.
Yep.
And I'm thinking of our friend Gary, who was a chronic relapser for like 20 years. Yeah. And it kicked in, and he has some of the best sobriety of somebody I know. and really long-term sobriety. That there are extreme examples where they try over and over and over and over again, but your part of talking to somebody, even if it initially doesn't get them sober, could plant the seed that may be slow to germinate.
I went to a wake just before we're recording this tonight, and the wake was for my sponsors, and because I am in a program and I had a sponsor, his mom died, and so there were a couple of program people there. I was there earlier because I have a busy night tonight, and there was a guy there who, God, I met this guy just talking about chronic relapsers. I met this guy probably 10 years ago now. And I had known him. I had seen him before. Like, I had been around the program since 95. So I had known him somewhat, and he knew my sponsor. Like, he and my sponsor were connected, and maybe my sponsor may have sponsored him once. But anyway, he was at the wake, and he's back in the rooms, and he's doing a pretty good job right now. And his wife was with him, and he introduced us. And he goes, oh, Steve and I go way back. And then he made a joke, and he goes, but there was a couple big gaps in there, like meaning he was out, right? And because he was a chronic relapser.
Yeah.
And it's a funny story but we always talk about it. When I met him, he goes, hey, I went to your house with the pool, right? And it was one of these days where, anyway, he came over to my house once, and he stunk of alcohol. He had been out drinking that whole night. And he left, and I never saw him again until I went up to a meeting a couple months ago, and he was at the meeting. And that's the whole point. Like, I didn't feel when he left my house that day like I failed. I talked to him. I tell people all the time, something. When I finally saw him a couple months ago, I was still in his phone. My phone number hasn't changed. My address, I tell people all the time, my phone number hasn't changed. My address hasn't changed. And there's 2 meetings I've been going to since I got sober in 2010. Or shortly thereafter. So you can find me at those 2 meetings pretty much any week. So I'm a findable person if you need help. And and it was good. And that's what it is. Like, there are gaps. And I said, hey, we all have gaps in our lives. That's what I told him. I made a joke, like, hey, we all have gaps in our lives.
Right.
And he struggled. He struggled big time. But, I think he's probably getting close to a year. He feels pretty good. He looks good. I was just talking to him tonight about, possibly going on a retreat in March. Those are the type of things that you can do to try to enhance your sobriety once you get here. But you're right. It's not a straight line. Sobriety is not a linear thing, right? It isn't.
Nope.
It's up, for many of us, it's up and down, up and down, up and down. And I didn't have a lot of relapses. When I had a relapse, I did, but there are people who really struggle with it. And we got all those stupid sayings in our program, and one of them is, don't quit before the miracle happens. And that's what that is, right? Don't quit. Keep coming back. I'm always proud of those people who keep coming back. I really am.
Me too. They inspire me.
Me too. And there was a woman who, for years, she used to come to our Monday night meeting years ago, and then I used to see her on the outdoor meetings, and she would come in and get a 24-hour chip. Ugh, I bet you I saw her get. I'm not even kidding. I bet you I saw her get a couple dozen 24-hour chips over a 3, 4, 5 year period, whatever it might be. She would get up, and I could never do that. I've always said that, like, I couldn't do that. Even if I was kept really, I wouldn't get up for the chip.
That would be hard.
She got up and got that chip every damn time. And I used to tell her, I'm so proud of you. You inspire me that you're able to do that. And the last time I saw her, which was a while ago, because I don't go to a lot of the meetings where she goes, she was really good. She probably had a couple years sobriety, She looked good. She sounded good. So it's always a nice thing when you see those people after they struggled for so long.
This is not like going on your phone and ordering an Uber, and within minutes, you've got a ride.
Right.
Or now, it's like $25 or more on Amazon. They'll ask you, hey, if you want to get to this level, buy enough of this, and we'll bring it same day. Yeah. And sobriety doesn't work on the smartphone principle. It's slow, it's tedious, and it takes a lot of patience. And people don't get it the first time. And just because that's the case doesn't mean they're not going to get it. I told my friend to lead with empathy. That's how I sort of lead. I don't think he'd be comfortable saying, well, I don't drink anymore. But you can start with something like that of, here's why I'm coming to you. If you're somebody who's a normie, here's why I'm coming to you. I really care about you. Mm-hmm. It feels to me that this is not going well, and it hurts me to see you. Is stopping drinking something that you might want to do? I would approach it somewhere like that. Yeah. The book talks about you tell your story first. So if you're in the program, here's probably what you should do. If you have that conversation, go with another guy. In twos, that's helpful because there are stories out there that you go to have that conversation with somebody and next thing you know, both of you are drunk. Or you say the wrong thing. To go with a buddy is always a good thing, but I would lead with, I just want to tell you my story. My story is this, that there were times I could drink and I'd stop, but I'd be miserable. And the mind was racing all the time. I didn't get DUIs, but I had these things. And you give them something to identify with, as opposed to, you're a damn dirty drunk. Well, that's probably not going to work. But if you lead with empathy of, I'm having this conversation because I care about you. I want to see you healthier. And let me tell you a little bit about me. I've got some experience with this. This is how I felt. And this is how my life has been really awesome. It's amazing the work that the booze I found was the least of my problems. Now I'm able to work on the things about me that allow me to get through life where booze is not the thing that I need. That's always going to be the better approach.
It's the perfect way to open, right? I mean, if you can lead with empathy, it's the perfect way to open. And I'm just going to say that, if possible, it might not be a bad idea, even if you're not in the program, take another person, if that person is available, right? Like if this is known to other people, you think, and there's other people, or, if there's somebody else maybe discuss this with, maybe not such a bad idea. And again, maybe not even the first time. I guess, that's what it is. It's more of a art than a science, right?
Yep.
It really is. It's like you got to sort of figure out the situation. Maybe the situation calls for just a one-on-one first time, and then maybe there's another opportunity down the road if it doesn't take, where you bring another person and it becomes more of an intervention type thing. Not a full intervention, but something maybe a little bit more stepped up of letting them know, like, hey, now you got a couple people concerned about you. And then here's the other thing I was thinking as you were talking. Your friend doesn't drink, so I don't know why your friend has chosen not to drink. And I don't know if that because they believe that they might have had a problem, or they just decided that they just wouldn't want to have alcohol to be part of it.
He believes life's better.
Right. So, and that's a perfect way to address it. Like, something I used to drink, like I'm sure maybe they used to drink together, these two people. And I just think my life is better without alcohol, and like, not that I can't drink it. Not that I can't drink it responsibly. I just think my life is better without it. That's one of the things that's happening in today's society. A lot of people are starting to realize that life is better without alcohol, even if they don't have a problem. Like, it's just better without alcohol.
There's a lot of people who are gluten-free and don't have celiac disease,
right?
Just because it's. I actually got an email. I'm reminded of this because I got an email from a listener who is telling me about what I have to find the name of the book, but he is gluten-free, and he told me going gluten-free fixed a lot of his problems. Yeah, my friend Jeff, who emails me from time to time, and he gives me some stuff, and he mentioned, I can't even find what the book was, and he's gonna hear this, and he's gonna send me another one. He said, I told you what it was, grain brain. So, but I bring that up that some people look and say, the health benefits of removing gluten are good. The health benefits of going with a vegan diet. Right. You can do the same thing with alcohol.
Yeah.
And I would say if this is somebody and you have access to friends or family, you might want to bring them in a little bit. Hey, so-and-so, I'm concerned about his drinking. What have you seen?
Right.
What are your feelings? It does help get some reinforcements there.
Another thing, and I don't want to go down this rabbit hole, and I don't want to sound like I'm I hate people who drink, because I don't. My wife drinks. My wife drinks, and she drinks fine. And we had one of those great things where we went out to dinner just Sunday. I was supposed to give blood. I didn't feel good anyway. We went out for like a late lunch, early dinner, and she got a glass of wine, and she left half it on the table, which always kills me.
That infuriates me.
Yeah, and not only that, because it infuriates more because we paid for it, but I just don't get it. And so we're leaving, and I told him, like, hey, we could sit here while you finish that. Like, there's no hurry. We're not going anywhere. Like, it was like a 2:15 lunch. Like, we had nothing going on. She just didn't feel like finishing it, and she left it behind. But one of the things that they say now, and again, there are reports done. They used to say that, a glass of wine a day was good for you. They do say now that no amount of alcohol is good for you. And I do believe that that's probably true. It's a poison. It makes us feel silly and good and a lot of things, and it's a social lubricant. But as a health benefit, there's no amount that's really healthy for you. There's the things that you can get from a glass of red wine or something, you can get from other things without the alcohol.
You can eat a handful of blueberries.
Right. So that's the thing. And again, it's not that, if you don't have a problem, then, well, if you don't have a problem, you're probably not listening to this podcast. So, but there's a lot of reasons why people don't drink nowadays. And one of them is health.
I'm making Instant Pot chili tonight because it's easy to put together. For some people, it's like making Instant Pot chili, that it's not something I make all the time. It's a decision that, okay, there are these circumstances, I'm going to bring out the Instant Pot and I'm going to make chili. But I'm not addicted to chili, nor do I think about it all the time. And that's how most people think of alcohol. Okay, well, if I'm in this situation, well, sure, I'll have a drink. And they don't think about it again ever. And so the people who have it once in a while, which normal drinkers, they have a handful of glasses a year. I saw some study that it's an obscenely low amount that normal drinkers drink. And in that case, it's probably not going to hurt you. But yeah, all the studies now coming out and saying of whatever benefit is there, the other things associated with it that could be a carcinogen, cancel it out. And it's much easier just to eat literally a handful of blueberries. Yeah. And you get the same thing.
And I think that's what a lot of people are deciding. Like, once they see some of that information, they say, why bother, right? Like, if I'm only having a glass of wine when I go out to dinner, which is sort of what my wife is doing now. She was talking, this is her talking, not me. She decided, she said, I don't think I'm going to buy a bottle of wine. She doesn't buy a lot of wine for home. And she's like, I don't think I'm going to buy one. I think I'll just have a glass when I go out. And a lot of people, once they get to that point, then they start thinking, why bother?
Oh, that's my wife.
Right. Why bother having that one glass a month or a week or whatever it might, or every 2 or 3 weeks, right? I mean, because my wife isn't going to drink it at home, then she's only going to drink it when she goes out, and that may be once every couple of weeks. Sometimes she'll go out every week with some friends, but once every couple of weeks. Who knows? Who knows why people don't drink? I don't drink because I can't drink, not because I don't want to drink, but I just can't drink.
Nope,
and
me neither.
And that for me, and it's not a bad thing. Today I do realize, like, my life is so much better without alcohol. And, nowadays I guess maybe if I could drink, I would do it. But, I'm happy my life doesn't include alcohol.
It's one thing off my to-do list.
Yeah.
That I have more time for the other things. And the list is pretty long as it is now. Mm-hmm. I have plenty of things I got to work on for myself. Removing that is an obstacle. And nobody ever said, I went out, I didn't drink, and I drove my car off the road. Yeah. Now, you might have done that, but that's incidental.
Yeah.
I left the bar, I didn't drink, and the cops, surrounded me and arrested me.
Yeah.
I don't walk out sober and am a menace and get into fights with people.
Yeah.
So there's that.
For many of us, that's a key, right?
Mm-hmm.
And even if those things didn't happen, they were possibilities, right? We talk about it all the time. When if you drank the way I drank in the my worst days that I had, not even that, even not when I was just a young drinker, partier, I was a menace on the road. I was. I didn't think it, but I was a menace on the roads, and it got, I'm so happy that I never hurt anybody, including myself, because I smashed up several cars. Luckily, none of them were bad. Most of them were one-car accidents, and I was lucky that I wasn't a speed driver. And, I wasn't going too fast. And when those accidents happened, I was okay.
Well, we'd love to hear your feedback on this. What has been your experience trying to reach out to somebody still sick and suffering? Did it work? Did it not work? Was it a disaster? Was it meh? Did you have any success? Is this something that helps you hearing this? Have you thought about reaching out to somebody, but you didn't know what to say? You can reach us at soberfriendspod.com or on Instagram at soberfriendspod. Steve, thanks for another great podcast.
All right, Matt. Have a great night.
You too, and we'll see everybody next week. Bye, everybody. You made it this far into the podcast. That tells me you're a pretty big fan. If you like what we do and you find value in the podcast, consider a donation at buymeacoffee.com/soberfriendspod. Your donation keeps us on the air to help out the new guy and helps us defray some of our costs. If you find value in our podcast, please consider a donation at buymeacoffee.com/soberfriendspod.